Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/AskReddit. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. What's a horrifying/creepy experience you have lived through? Serious. Attention. Serious, tag notice. Jokes, puns, and off-topic comments are not permitted in any comment, parent or child. Parent comments that aren't from the target group will be removed, along with their child replies. Report comments that violate these rules. Posts that have few relevant answers within the first hour, and posts that are not appropriate for the serious tag will be removed. Consider doing an AMA request instead. Thanks for your cooperation, and enjoy the discussion. I am a bot, and this action was performed automatically. Please contact the moderators of this subreddit if you have any questions or concerns. When I was maybe 19 or 20, I nearly got run off the road on my way home from work one night. No actual accident, but it shook me up, so I pulled off on the shoulder to calm down before continuing to drive. A windowless van pulled up behind me, and a man got out and approached my car. He asked if I was okay, and I told him I was fine, just gathering myself after a scare. He offered for me to wait in the van with his wife and kids. He insisted multiple times that I get in his van. Luckily, my door was already locked and I had only cracked the window to speak with him. Since he parked his van right behind me, and I could see in my rear view there were no visible passengers in his van. That's horrifying. I can't imagine what his intentions were. Holy shit, thank God you stayed in your car. I was once at my girlfriend's townhouse, and they had a backyard with a shared fence with a family, or group of families. It was dark night, but one of those nights when the light of the town reflects off of the clouds, so it's eerily light out. The fence between the townhome and the family house was old and worn out, so you could see through the gaps if you really focused. We heard a blood-curdling scream "no," followed by an immediate soul-crushing inhale. There was probably 50 feet between the glass sliding door we were at and the fence. They had their floodlights on, and it illuminated the silhouettes of the parents crying. Peering through the fence 50 feet away, you could see a body swaying from the tree. Their son had hung himself and discovered it in the dead of night, when their dog ran out to the backyard and activated the floodlights. We could only see through the small gaps in the fence, and the shadows of the family experiencing it in real time. Still gives me chills every time I think about it. When I was 19, I was 7 months pregnant with my oldest daughter. I still lived with my parents and came home after work around 11:30 p.m. I usually checked that the vehicles were locked before going inside. But this night I was overcome with a sense of immense fear. I wouldn't even look towards my parents' vehicles and hurried into the house. 20 minutes later, a guy is knocking on our door telling us that my parents' SUV was on fire and to get out of the house, saving our lives, and we called 911. There was a serial arsonist on the loose in our town, and when he was caught, and he confessed, he admitted to watching me come home that night, and how he was preparing to hurt me in case I had caught him, but I never looked over his direction as he was sitting in my parents' SUV when I had arrived home. It took years before I was able to be out at night alone. Gave me chills. I wake up to my dog quietly, but insistently poking my face with his nose at 4 a.m. As I'm trying to figure out what's wrong, I hear someone using the keypad lock on my front door and putting the wrong code in. That's a bit weird. I go to grab my phone but realize it's completely dead as its charging wire had been failing. Okay, I quietly go to the living room where my landline is. That's 100% dead as well. I found out later it had been cut by my soon-to-be ex-wife before she'd moved into her father's after I asked for a separation. She developed a severe mental illness with a lot of paranoia and violence, and I just couldn't handle it anymore. Okay, so no way to get help, so I go up to the blinds and try to look out to see what I'm dealing with. It's this massive brick of a man, literally a triangle-shaped upper body, and arms the size of 2 liters. To make things worse, he must have seen me, and suddenly started trying to break down the door and yelling that he's going to kill me. Well, hopefully he doesn't mean that literally, but I'm for the first time wondering if I should have rethought having a gun. In a complete bullshit lie, I yell out that I've called the police, and that I'm armed and ready. He seems to know this isn't entirely true and persists. Apparently, I didn't even bluff well enough to fool my dog. He'd been being quiet and hiding behind me until I yells, but on hearing me scream, some switch flipped in him. He's the sort of German shepherd that tries, and often succeeds, at befriending cats, squirrels and birds. Up to this point he's basically been a clumsier version of Snow White. He started barking in a way I've never heard a dog bark before. It seriously sounded like some monster from a horror movie. It was the sound you hear right after you've wandered off alone and right before you die. My dog then started trying to break the door down the other direction with his face. And he succeeded in somehow breaking out the security glass in the middle and leaping out at the guy. The guy ran off and he ran after him. He came back about 15 to 20 minutes later on his own, bloody, but mostly unharmed. It took a while to figure out what happened as my neighborhood wasn't a high crime area. It turned out my ex had convinced this ex-Navy guy that I was trying to kill her. Didn't mention, she thought I killed women by making them orgasm then enslaving them in the afterlife, and that he should kill me before I could harm her. A few weeks after this attempt and before I found out who was behind this, someone broke in my back door's window and instantly regretted coming in when my dog chased them out. It was kind of hilarious despite how scary it was. Literally heard my back window breaking, my dog didn't even bark, but I could hear him running onto the back door, then the sound of a human running around the house as quickly as possible and jumping into a car that sped off. I never found out for sure who that was though. Long story short, he ended up in jail, and with some bite wounds, she ended up in civil commitment for other behavior. The guy claimed he did it on his own, but I doubt that, and I got an order of protection. My dog definitely had some PTSD form that for a while, and would wake me up around 4 a.m. every morning insisting I let him out to literally just walk around the border of our backyard. Though over time he's pretty much back to normal, and fortunately even while more affected still was super friendly and passive. I was home alone for the weekend when I was in high school, which was exciting for me as I never really had the house to myself ever. I had a few people over the Friday night and got hammered, then the next night it was just me home alone in my house. I had a case of beers left over, and had a movie to watch, so I decided that the hangover would not keep me down, and to party by myself, and have an awesome night. I ended up getting way too drunk and felt hungry. I decided to cook a mad feed and started whipping up a pasta in a drunken slur. I was singing like a maniac while I played MasterChef in my kitchen thinking I was top shit. Halfway through singing and stirring the pasta sauce, I hear a tapping sound and some movement in the corner of my eye catches my attention. One of the metal chain ropes used to pull the blinds up and down on the glass doors was moving and hitting the glass door, making a tapping sound. I froze as I watched it moving back and forth by itself. Then my focus kind of zoomed out as I realized that that was not the only metal blind ropes that were moving. We have around 7 sets of blinds on the glass doors, and all 7 of the ropes were moving back and forth. My hair stood up and I walked out of the kitchen as all of them were tapping on the glass doors. No windows or doors in the house were open, and they were picking up momentum with the tapping becoming louder and more frequently. I turned around just in time to see the DVD case of the movie I was watching slide off the TV cabinet on its own. I let out a slurred "Fewart" thought and went to bolt outside, just freaking out. On the way out I saw the painting next to the front door. It had been moved and was tilted. I let out a gasp. I ran out the door and wet myself just a little in the process. Shit was real, the horror was real, this was real. Outside I was so distraught and horrified at what had just happened. My house was haunted. There was a fucking ghost, and it was fucking with me. It didn't like me. I realized that I had left the stove on, and that I needed to leave, but needed to grab my phone to call someone and get out of there. I decided I would go to the park and try to contact a friend. So I psyched myself up, ran into the house, turned off the stove shitting myself, ran into my room, grabbed the key, my phone and 10 beers. I headed to the park and started drinking again. No one picked up as everyone was wiped out from the night before. Cut a long story short, I vaguely remember being at the park before I blacked out, then in my kitchen crying at some point, then blank. The next day I woke up in my bed. I wondered whether it was just a dream, but I walked out and saw the pasta and DVD case and realized that it was legit. I realized that I had to break the news to my family later that day that our house was haunted and that we would have to move. I went on Facebook and that's when I saw status after status saying that there had been a minor earthquake during the night. Needless to say, I felt like a hungover idiot, but the truth is that was the first earthquake I had experienced, and we don't get earthquakes where I live. Or not usually, at least. After getting evicted from our apartment, my sister and I lived in a station wagon with our mom for almost a month. One night, we were parked in a lot kind of hidden behind some dumpsters. It was just my sister and me, trying to sleep when we woke up to someone tapping on the window. It was an old man with a scraggly beard and these wet lesions all over his face. He smiled at us and told us in this raspy voice, "Hey, roll down the window." In the dim light from the street lamp, he looked like a demon pressing his face against the window glass. We shook our heads and held each other as he went around the station wagon checking each door to see if it would open. Eventually, he came back to the rear and this time he wasn't smiling, but looking really angry and demented. He started slamming on the back window and telling us to open the fucking window, "You fucking cunts." I remember being terrified that he was going to break the glass with his fists. He suddenly stopped and walked away when an SUV pulled in and shone its headlights on him. I don't know if it was a cop or a security guard or just someone driving by, but it was enough to scare him away. My sister and I jumped out of the car as the SUV pulled away. We went to the laundromat and sat in there for the rest of the night. One night of college, I heard a woman screaming for help. I looked out my window and saw her right next to the street. Keep in mind this is a popular college town and the street was busy, and there didn't seem to be anything immediately attacking or endangering her. After a few minutes I was about to go down when a car pulled up and 3 guys got out. I could overhear the convo since it was right out of my bedroom, but she said no one was paying attention, and they should try some other apartment. They all jumped in and drove off. A month later an apartment got broken into and 4 people were caught, 1 woman and 3 men. Apparently she was in the house and left the door unlocked, and the men then came in and robbed the place. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.